Every time you justify yourself, you give away a little power. Every time you explain the same point again, you dilute your authority. And every time you talk past the point, you signal that you are seeking permission instead of standing in certainty. Over-explaining looks polite and feels safe, but in practice it trains people to ignore you. By the end of this talk, you will understand why over-explaining weakens you, how to cut it without becoming cold, and which exact sentences you can use to replace long justifications with quiet command. Why women over-explain? From childhood, many women are trained to make other people comfortable. Say sorry. Be nice. Add context. Prove that you meant well. You learn to pour on reasons until no one is upset. The habit seems kind, but it subtly places everyone's feelings above your own time and focus. You talk longer than necessary because you are trying to manage their reaction. Over-explaining is often an invisible bargain. You think if you give enough reasons, you will avoid conflict. If you prevent misunderstanding, you will be safe. If you share your thinking in detail, people will stop judging you. Yet the more you explain, the more guilty you sound. The more you justify, the less decisive you appear. Authority as an energy authority is not volume or aggression. Authority is economy. A leader spends few words to move reality. When someone speaks with clarity, our nervous systems relax. When someone piles on details, we sense hedging, and the mind treats the message as optional. Imagine two lines. One says, "The meeting is at 3. The other says, "I was thinking maybe 3, unless that is inconvenient, we could do 4. But only if it works for everyone, and of course I am flexible." The first line creates direction. The second creates negotiation. The difference is not information, it is posture. Machiavellian optics. Machiavelli warned rulers that defense invites attack. When you explain, you accept a courtroom frame. You place yourself on the stand and invite cross-examination. The more you defend, the more questions appear. Powerful women invert the frame. They make statements. They set terms. They let silence pressure the room more than reasons ever could. There is a time to present data and a time to declare. Decision first, rationale on request. This sequence protects your authority. If someone has earned access, they can ask for the why. You do not donate it by default. Where over-explaining shows up in work, you send emails that read like essays. In relationships, you write paragraphs to justify one boundary. In family, you relive old history every time you say no. In social life, you announce why you are unavailable and then answer follow-up questions as if your calendar requires approval. Each of these scripts trains people to expect access to your inner world. You taught them to. You can retrain them now. Silence as a tool. Silence is not a void. Silence is a structure. A well-placed pause does 3 things. It marks the end of your statement. It gives the other person a chance to step into responsibility. It forces a decision. Words can be debated. Silence cannot. Old money calibration. Observe people who never beg for understanding. An old money hostess does not explain why dinner starts early. She smiles and says, "We begin at 7. A gatekeeper does not explain why a list is closed. She says, "The list is closed." These lines rest on a deep assumption. Access to you is earned. Your choices need no preface. Your time is a scarce asset. The 3-sentence rule. Adopt this rule for the next month. Sentence 1 states your position. Sentence 2 gives the single most relevant fact. Sentence 3 closes the loop or offers a path. Then stop. For example, "I will not be available this weekend." I have commitments I am keeping. We can look at Tuesday. Or, that rate does not work for me. I am available at this figure. Let me know if that fits. Notice how each script is simple, respectful, and closed. Cutting explanations in real time. Catching the habit is half the victory. Here is a live edit. You start to say, I cannot make the dinner because I have had a long week, and I promised myself I would rest, and I have a project due, and I do not want to disappoint you. The edit becomes, I will not make dinner. Let us plan another time. If they push, repeat once. The boundary loop boundaries fail, not because you do not speak, but because you add a trailing paragraph that reopens the gate. Your sentence is the lock. Your explanation is the spare key you hand to the other person. Say the lock. Do not hand over the key. Diagnostic questions. Before you speak, ask 3 questions. Am I saying this to be clear or to be liked? Have I already stated the answer? If I stopped after the first sentence, would anything essential be missing? If the first 2 answers are yes and yes, and the third is no, stop after the first sentence. Replacing guilt with standards. Guilt is an alarm wired into women to keep them compliant. Standards are the new wiring. Standards say, my time matters, my energy is finite, my decision stands. When guilt flares, breathe and let the sensation pass without action. Do not buy relief with an extra paragraph. Tolerate the discomfort. It is the price of rewiring. Scripts for common moments. When someone pressures you to justify a boundary, use, that does not work for me. When someone asks for your private reasons, use, I keep that private. When a client pushes scope, use, that is outside the agreement. Here is a proposal if you want to add it. When a friend wants last-minute access, use, I am not available tonight. Next week could work. Notice how none of these include a life story. They are clear, short, and final. If the other person respects you, clarity serves them. If they do not, explanation will not fix it. Managing power in voice and body content is only half of authority. Deliver the line with low and slow breath, chin level, shoulders down, and stillness at the end. Cut the nervous laugh. Remove the softening tag, like, if that is okay. Replace rising inflection with a calm downward finish. When to offer reasons. There are moments when reasons are generous and strategic. You give a brief why to build trust, teach your thinking, or invite collaboration. The key is timing and proportion. Present the decision. Offer one sentence of why. Then ask a focused question. For example, I am moving the deadline to Friday. We need the buffer for quality. What risk does that create for you? The no that preserves the yes. Every unnecessary explanation today steals time from a real yes tomorrow. You cannot build an extraordinary life if your hours leak into appeasement. Each short line protects your future from erosion. A short practice plan. For 2 weeks, keep a tally. Every time you catch yourself adding extra words, mark a line in a notebook. Do not judge. The count itself will make you precise. Choose one daily situation to practice brevity. A meeting opening, a calendar decline, a text reply. Pre-write a 1-sentence response and use it. Rituals that support. Brevity rituals reduce decision fatigue. Try these. A weekly evening with your phone off. Office hours for replies. A rule that you never explain and no more than once. A personal policy that you sleep on big requests. Reputation effects. People learn you through patterns. After a month of concise lines, you will notice fewer challenges and fewer probing questions. Precision earns respect. Consistency compounds it. People notice. Quickly. Closing. Over-explaining is the tax women pay to be liked. You do not owe that tax. Replace it with standards, silence, and clean scripts. Say the thing once, clearly. Stop. Let the quiet do its work. You will feel the urge to add more. Breathe and hold your line. Power expands to fill the silence you protect. The woman who speaks with economy is the woman who is obeyed, desired, and remembered.